so no one would take credit for this abomination. It's that bad.
I don't want to be associated with this. Okay, today on the channel we are returning once again to the infamous now IGN Top 100 Greatest Games of All Time list. Going back to some anomalies, but this time in a slightly different way, because they've left a giant chunk of gaming history out of their list. And it just infuriates Rich more than me. But as he started talking about it, I realised how right he really was. And I don't say that often.
Yeah. The first thing that came to my mind as I was going through the list of the top 100 games of all time was somehow they've managed to fail to include any games published by Sega whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, this is a
crazy.
Really weird one. It doesn't make any sense because as we're about to go through, there are some amazing games that should have made this list.
It's ridiculous. Like, although we rag on the character sometimes, Sonic, how ridiculously important is Sonic? Like, how can you not place any Sonic games whatsoever on the top 100 games of all time list? When I was a kid, like I said, in the school playground, it was Sonic merchandise would be literally everywhere. Yeah. Sonic lunchboxes, it was Sonic everything.
Yeah. And it wasn't just a UK thing or a Europe thing. Yeah. It was a global thing. I mean, it wasn't as popular in the States. It was still ridiculously popular. And
the fact is, these games was this good and they was this well placed, especially Sonic 2 and Sonic 3, even Sonic and Knuckles.
I really like 1. So I'm even going to take a shout for 1 here.
But all the 3D games since have been absolute shite.
Yeah.
But the franchise is still ridiculously popular because it was so well positioned at the beginning.
Yeah, it did so well.
And now there's even successful Hollywood movies as well. And that's today.
Yeah.
So to just completely ignore Sonic like it doesn't exist is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, they've even got stars in there, playing the characters that don't slap comedians.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
Respected, that's the word I was looking for.
Respectable.
Respectable, yeah. Yeah, so...
Idris Elba.
Was he in it? Yeah, he was in it.
Yeah, he was.
He's going to be.
Yeah. No, he is. He's Knuckles.
Oh, yeah. He's Knuckles. That's true. Yeah. So, again, exciting stuff. It's a weird one. How can you have a top 100 greatest games of all time list
without Sega?
Without a Sonic game?
Yeah. It's ridiculous. But Sega in general, which led me into thinking about this a little more deeply. From what I can gather from their list, they see gaming through one very specific lens.
Yeah.
And that is, it seems to be trending topics. That's the only way I can put it, because nearly all the games are in the list based on what's trendy at this moment in time. Because as in there's a lot of like modern AAA games released in the last 5 years, and then most older games on the list, 99% of games that didn't come out in the last decade, are all Nintendo games. They're obsessed with rimming Nintendo specifically. Well, and Nintendo's got a fantastic legacy.
Yeah. But as we see from our views on this channel alone, rimming Nintendo does tend to help the channel.
It does.
It does. You've seen from, was it Late Decade's channel? Did really well on Nintendo stuff for a while.
It does, it does do really good Nintendo stuff.
So people just seem to love rimming Nintendo. It seems to have stood the test of time more than others. But that's not the point of a greatest 100 games of all time.
We're talking about legacy here. And yes, these Nintendo games have got great legacy, but so have the Sega games in my opinion.
Yeah.
And what also occurred to me regarding this list, apart from the lack of Sega, was the complete lack of respect for the arcade industry as a whole.
That's mad.
Nearly all the games on the list were either for PC or console. It was as if none of these writers have ever been to an arcade. And speaking of writers, what was really hilarious, when we read who wrote the list.
Yeah, so for the 2 videos previous to this, which are probably going to be at the end of this video, for anybody that hasn't seen them, you can go back and watch them, we were moaning about the writer of this list, saying we've got to figure out who this writer is. And I said to Rich, I said, you should check this writer. So now it's come to the 3rd video in this little mini-series that we've ended up doing. We checked before. And who wrote this article, Rich?
It just says IGN staff, so no one would take credit for this abomination. It's that bad.
Just go, I don't want to be associated with this. Just put IGN staff. Nobody will check. We did.
Yeah.
And, the responsibility for your horrible, horrible list.
Yeah, you're... Awful take that Sega apparently doesn't exist and arcades don't exist, and the only thing that's ever happened are Nintendo consoles and modern gaming, and that's it. Yeah. Nothing else ever happened, ever.
Yeah. No, of course it didn't. There's no need for it to happen, because it wasn't in their little bubble.
And when we combine the two, obviously Sega was a massive player in the arcade market, which further points towards why the fact they're being ignored completely, because the people who wrote it clearly are about 12 years old. That's the only thing that makes sense, because as if they don't realise this big chunk in time happened.
Yeah, it is weird.
Which made me realise that with no arcade games, there's absolutely no beat-em-ups whatsoever. The beat-em-up genre does not exist, according to this list. So you've got no Turtles in Time, you've got none of the big Konami beat-em-ups from the arcade, or none of the big Sega beat-em-ups either, including none of the Streets of Rage trilogy.
Streets of Rage is a ridiculously good game. I mean, 2's probably the
quad
best...
trilogy as it is now, I guess.
I mean, Streets of Rage 2's probably the defining kind of entry in the series.
Yeah, that was the greatest home console beat 'em up at the time. It truly did bring the arcade experience home, which is what gaming was all about back then. In a way, it was trying to bring the greatness of the arcades back home, and they're kind of ignoring that any of that even happened.
So the fact there's no Streets of Rage on this list is an absolute travesty.
Or beat 'em ups.
And beat 'em ups in general. But Streets of Rage is probably the best of the beat 'em ups. I can't think of a better one.
And beat 'em ups are really, really popular, made a comeback at the time. So the fact that...
You've based almost an entire channel on it for a while.
Exactly, I still pretty much do.
Yeah.
But then they're not giving that genre any respect. It's horrible to see.
Yeah, it's sad not from a really huge fan perspective, but from a casual fan.
But yeah, in terms of importance and history... The Shenmue games aren't there either. Like, how can there be no Shenmue?
Shenmue for me doesn't hold up as well as what it should. But again, if you're looking at legacy games, I mean, Shenmue is huge.
And what it achieved at the time, it was the highest budget video game that had ever been made at that time, and it was like, it's hard to explain unless you was there, but it was the most realistic feeling game that had ever been released. Like, it was a huge jump between playing that game and what you'd experienced on the Sony PlayStation and Nintendo 64 previously. But look at what a game like Banjo-Kazooie or Mario 64 looked like, then look at Shenmue. It's ridiculous, the jump there. It is mental.
Yeah, it's crazy. It doesn't make any sense why that's not on the list.
And then you haven't got the Golden Axe games.
Yeah, no Golden Axe.
They should be up there with Streets of Rage.
Yeah.
Yakuza's current, isn't it? Isn't that currently quite a popular franchise?
Yeah, I mean, Yakuza's almost carried on where Shenmue
a lot of people do say that, yeah.
Again, not exactly the same, but it's got that feeling behind it. And greatest game of all time... Personally, I'd find it hard to put Shenmue and Yakuza there, but to not have them in the conversation at least.
It was top 100 ever. I think it's impossible to not put Shenmue there.
Big fan you are of this game. I don't know why I said it like that, but I did. Big fan you are of this game, Richard. Dragoon Saga. Panzer
Dragoon Saga, yeah. Again, how do you make a top 100 video games of all time list? Put multiple JRPGs in there. Place fucking Undertale.
I think top 25.
Yeah, the top 25. I think like 21 or something. But leave Panzer Dragoon Saga out. That's insane to me. Absolutely ridiculous.
I mean, I haven't got a lot of experience with the game, but I have seen you play it and I've seen playthroughs of it, and it's an amazing game.
It is.
It's depthy and
yeah,
crazy.
It's
crazy
fantastic.
Even other games. I mean, you got like stuff like Gunstar Heroes. Gunstar Heroes is an awesome game.
Yeah. And obviously it was developed by Treasure and only published by Sega. But it's still a Sega game.
It's still a Sega game.
It's a Sega game.
Yeah, we're going to force that one in.
We will. Yeah, because it's good.
For Sega's sake.
Great little running gun. Which
you
could have had a place there.
Yeah.
You've also got the Fantasy Stars.
Damn it. Yeah, you've got loads of Fantasy Star games. I'm not sure which one's the best, but if people shout about two.
People love online on the Dreamcast.
Fantasy Star Online on the Dreamcast.
And again, people playing a console game online back then makes it have a great legacy in itself.
Yeah. Fantasy Star games are really, really good. Again, really, really hold up today as well. Fun.
Yeah, you got Skies of Arcadia. Again, I think that's another great JRPG. Again, I think that's better than Undertale personally. It certainly lasts a lot more than 8 hours.
Yeah. They're just the ones that we can think of kind of at the top of our head. Like,
and then going back to the arcades again, there's all these experiences which were definitely best in arcade, such as I noticed on their list somehow, again, they didn't only not include any beat 'em ups whatsoever. Light gun games don't exist according to IGN.
There is no on-rail shooters on that list whatsoever. I was really angry about this. I'm a massive fan of on-rail shooters. Time Crisis, again, going away from Sega a little bit, but like Time Crisis. House of the Dead's a great Sega game as well. It was on the Dreamcast. Fantastic game that is.
Then you've got the Virtual Cop games.
Virtual Cop. There's loads of great on-rail shooters that could have potentially made this list just to be on there. As a side note, I think it's an absolute travesty that there aren't any games that are being made like a Time Crisis 5, or I don't know what they got to in the end, or a House of the Dead 7, I think they did 6, for VR. I mean, I know VR's in its infancy.
House of the Dead's making a comeback on the Switch.
Is it?
Yes.
Oh, I'm excited about that. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it is.
That could be really fun. So yeah, I mean, there's loads of games that like could have been there that weren't, and my biggest shout for this is going to be arcade light gun games.
Again, it's like they always say, you can't spell ignorant without IGN.
That seems to be your tagline.
Yeah, and somehow they've managed to overlook the fact that arcades exist, or that Sega exist, or that these big beat 'em ups exist, light gun games exist. It's like they're in a little tiny bubble, obsessed with Nintendo and current gen gaming. Nothing else. Yeah. That's all they care about.
Yeah, there's nothing that really screams at me that hasn't come out in the past 10 years on that list, really.
Yeah, it's bizarre. So there's not really anything else I've got to say about that, really. It's only taken 3 videos.
3 videos.
To nearly an hour of talking about this.
Yeah, it has been.
And we could probably still cover it further if we chose to.
We could carry on. We could do this.
We could if we wanted.
Yeah, rearrange the games to put them into a better list. Yeah. Maybe that would be that's probably maybe future Patreon content.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll just have a 4-hour video go up on Patreon, just covering
every single, all 100.
Yeah. Every top game ever ranked. It's just every single game in existence just ranked on a list of like 50,000. So, to conclude,
why do you think that they overlook Sega? And who do you think IGN staff actually is? Is it one person? Is it multiple people? And if it's multiple people, how can so many people be ignoring these areas of history? What's going on?
Sega, I think, were probably excusing this because they kind of died a bit of a death, and their IPs got kind of shifted around quite a bit. They lost a lot of quality in the later things, and people don't forget about Sega, but I think people, especially younger people, potentially forget how good Sega were at making games. They were phenomenal, and it was literally poor marketing that let them down at the end of the day. I think people are just not remembering that, or misremembering at least. It's
bizarre. That's what. And what about arcades though? That's even more weird. A whole industry of games.
See, again, I don't know when this was lit, but maybe that people have forgot what it's like to go outside.
What you're saying? They're just like they live inside and just write.
Just been isolated. Yeah, had to be in isolation for 2 years maybe, and
they forgot arcades existed.
Yeah.
So it could be one. It's maybe one of two things. Either these people are too young, that it's a case of they're too young to have gone to the arcades when the arcades were in their golden age,
or COVID,
or there's a C, COVID, or C, they're so old that they forgot they went to arcades. Yeah. Alzheimer's.
Yes.
So who knows?
Yeah. Maybe that is the problem. Although you'd expect maybe some Spectrum stuff.
Yes. Yeah, no microcomputer stuff. But now we're getting into a whole other realm.
Yeah. What else have they not put on there?
This could go on forever.
No DOS games.
No point and clicks. They hate point and clicks.
There was one Broken Sword game on there.
Oh, was there?
One Broken Sword game.
Okay.
One. But again, no Lego Super Mario.
No Solitaire.
No Solitaire. No. Minesweeper.
It's ridiculous.
Minesweeper's the best
Minesweeper is
PC game ever made.
Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, let us know in the comment section down below why you think that IGN hate Sega and hate the arcade industry. Let us know in the comment section down below. Yeah. Cheerio!